All right, so welcome everyone. Tonight we are doing the 2023 year in review, which we're super excited about. We only host this event once, so we're glad you're here. But like I said, we will be recording it and putting it up on YouTube for you to view it later. I am Avril Williams. I'm the head of marketing with Backyard ADUs. So all of you who follow us on social media, I'm the person behind the screen there, along with the newsletters and things you receive. Joining us tonight are our small home advisors. We have Jeff Bowman. He is our small home advisor in Maine. And then we also have Tim O'Reilly. He's our small home advisor in Massachusetts. So they are your point of contact. We will have their contact information both at the end of this. And then in addition, I'm going to be sending out a follow-up email with any resources that we mention. And it will also have Tim and Jeff's contact info. So if you by chance don't get it now, we will make sure to get that to you. Did I miss anything?
I think that's everything.
Got it.
Sounded
All right.
good, yeah.
Great.
Well, the one thing I'd add is that Q&A is awesome. It really helps liven up these evenings. We love answering questions and helping you out. So don't hesitate, and as questions come up, put those in the Q&A. All right, well, I'll get started. I'll share my screen. Jeff and I have been working on this presentation for a little while and had an absolute blast looking back on all of our projects.
Memory lane.
Memory lane, absolutely. So our goal tonight, in a nutshell, is to show you a lot of what we're doing. Jeff and I sort of went through our archive of the 23 projects we built this past year and pulled out a couple that we worked on. We don't have favorites, but we just like to pick some ones that, highlighted some features about, standard designs or ways that we can deviate from that and make customers happy with exactly what they're looking for. So this past year, this is that basic map I was looking at. Where were we? Where have we been in 2023? We were all over the place. So 23 projects in 2023 across 2 states, Maine and Mass. And you can see that, generally in and around the Portland area, but also up the coast and down coast. The Cape was a big year for us of getting to know towns and bylaws and helping people build ADUs and address the needs there. We've started a couple projects in and around Boston, more to follow this year. And then a lot sort of in our core home region where we started out in Western Mass. But yeah.
It's fun to look at.
It's great. And who we are, our team has grown this past year. It's been really exciting. And it's been great to know people and get them up and going. We now have 2 full service construction teams, one in Mass and one in Maine. They are working tirelessly to get people moved in. And then sort of behind the scenes, you see a couple of us today, Jeff and myself and Avril, but we have our design and engineering team. And at the end of the day, we're having happy customers, which honestly is the most rewarding part of the job. We're going to show you designs and houses tonight. What we're not going to show you or what we have is, interviews and testimonials, but it's at the end of the day, what keeps us going is building houses with happy customers. So Jeff, you want to take it from here? Tell us about this project that you worked on.
Yeah, definitely. So the way that I wanted to kind of present this was do the overview, do a site review, kind of put you in the driver's seat of what it would be like to be one of our customers, and then kind of see it from the very start to the finish, and kind of a photo montage along the way. So I have these customers. They live in Maine, little town here in Maine, dirt roads, kind of a town. They wanted to build a custom home, but we used one of our square models as a base point, jumping off point. We ended up building a site-built breezeway and a pottery studio attached to their home, their 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. So the pottery studio was, one of them is a potter in the Portland area, and they wanted to make sure that they plan on living in this house for the foreseeable future, aging in place, but they wanted to make sure when it does come time to sell their home or give it to their their children, that they could, and unless somebody wasn't also a potter, that they could convert the garage space, the pottery into a garage space. So we put framing inside the pottery studio, so that way it would be pretty easy to knock out the wall and put in the infrastructure needed for a 2-car garage. So anyways, they're wonderful people, and real pleasure getting to know them. So when they signed up with us, they had, like I said, dirt road was the main road, and then they bought a raw piece of land, which we get this question a lot, is can you build not only an ADU, non-ADU, but can you build in a raw piece of land? And the answer is yes and yes. So this was not technically an ADU. This was a single family residence. The purpose of this slide here is to just show the lengths that we go to show, we're a total project company here. So we don't only build your house, but then we also help you figure out all of the site constraints. With them in particular, it was clearing the lot, it was running power to the property, putting in the utilities, a well, septic, and all of the logistics that really go into that. So putting in, the way that we build is a modular construction. So we needed to figure out where we would be able to have a crane pad, where we would be able to have the home before it's set on the foundation, being able to get all the construction vehicles into the space, into the raw piece of land, was just part of the project, but something that we feel comfortable doing and tackling. So that's maybe the fun part for some folks, but I feel like most people like to actually design the home. So that's personally my favorite part of the whole puzzle. Less of designing septics, more designing living spaces. So this is a bird's eye of one iteration of it's close to the final iteration of their home here. So the main goal was to just make it a living space that they could age in place, working with the big open living room, kitchen area, master bedroom to host a California king size bed, 2 full bathrooms, and then a guest space was needed. And then we built this on-site entryway, which I don't have any good photos of, which is a shame because it's beautiful. She ended up finding these wonderful tiles that they tiled the entire entry hallway with. Looks remarkable. But having that entry space, landing space was a key design feature. And then we also did the angled studio as well, just to give the way that you pull into the lot, it gives some dimension to the whole place rather than just squares on land. It really is something, it brings something nice to the property. So what we do when we're designing the home is kind of the big picture, and then we go all the way down to the nitty gritty, finish selections, what type of flooring, what type of trim, and just being mindful of people's budgets, because it's we realize that it's real people on the other side, and we want to make sure that it's a good quality home, but then also something that you can actually afford to live in. So we took this piece of land and then put this on it. So this is their home. The picture on the left is their studio. Yep, that's their studio space there with the laundry room. She's got her kiln up and running already. I'm so excited for her. Entryway, site-built entryway, and then there's the main house over there. And then the photo on the right is the rear. So, yep, the house is there where the cursor is, and then the studio garage space is to the right there. So they went with a fun detail. They went with whitewashed pine siding from Hammond Lumber, which turned out really striking and beautiful, especially in person. We had never worked with a material like this, but we were all really excited to see it go on, and the homeowners love it. So happy customers is happy backyard ADU.
And I think was it right, Jeff? They were thinking about solar and part of. I'm just looking at
Yep.
this photo on the right. I remember when I was up there for the set day, they were chatting about, hey, down the road, all the upgrades they wanted to do, and we left them plenty of roof space to do that.
Yep, plenty of roof space for that. They have a nice big fenced-in yard for their dogs, which was very important. They got quite a few projects that they want to undertake, and I have no doubt that they're actually going to follow through on it as well, which is really cool to see. It'll be fun to come back in a couple of years and see, you know, the plantings around the house. This looks a little barren at the moment, but they're really excited for their gardens and plantings around the house. This is the set day that Tim was mentioning. So like I said, we build modular construction, which I would assume most people know, but if you don't, then this is what modular looks like. We're able to build year round in a factory, which is really nice for these Maine winters that we have. What we do is we construct most of the home, probably 85% of the interior of the home and the walls, exterior, the whole thing is built in the factory setting and then put on a truck and then driven to the site. So there's a lot of designing, a lot of planning before we actually get to setting the house on the foundation. Once we're actually at this point of the game, we have a really good game plan where we're really efficient and we're actually in and out fairly quickly, usually 6 to 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks. Depends on the project. So going through their photos, I have been to their house multiple times since they've been able to finish the house, but I never feel comfortable taking photos of the interior. I should just ask and say, hey, could I take photos of the interior house, because they've done such a wonderful space of it. But most of the photos that I have access to are all just the construction photos. So here's some in-between construction photos, tiles in the bathroom. There's that siding going on, flooring going in. They chose a real nice hardwood flooring from Atlantic Hardwoods, which we love to put in. So lots of little design choices that made this home theirs, let alone the actual design. They really had a heavy hand in designing the home. So they were a joy to work with. They were definitely an exemplary model of a good customer and a good situation all around. So
awesome. All right, my turn. Thinking about the past year, I thought about this project down on the Cape. It's an interesting design. We sort of modified a square and an L line together. So on the left was our initial floor plan, or we sort of enlarged an L shape and morphed it and squished a square. We're up against some tight size limitations with the town in terms of how big the ADU could be. And so working within those parameters and within the budget and all the things you wanted to fit into that house, we were able to build something that checked all the boxes. So it was a 1-bedroom, but she wanted sort of a bonus room for sewing or doing crafts and activities where she could close the door. So that's sort of in the middle of the house there. And then we also had here, it was key for her to have a porch, sort of have some indoor-outdoor space. And then you also note, you know, on the site plan on the right and sort of our floor plan on the left, we're pretty tight. We're pretty tight in this backyard. We're really sneaking it along the side of the existing house. And as you can sort of see with these contour lines, we were dealing with a bit of a grade change. So I'll show you in a minute our foundation photos about how we were able to overcome these obstacles and still have that ADU fit into the backyard, fit the size requirements for the town, but also have these spaces sort of feel separate. Because, you know, even though in this case it was the sister moving into her other sister's backyard, you know, you want a sense of privacy, even though you're that close. So this is what it ended up looking like from the front along the side of the other house. We did an offset gable roof, and then she has this big entry porch. She has dogs and her sister has dogs, so it's important to be able to let the dog out the front door, but still have it fenced in, and they'll have access to the backyard, which is great. So that grade that I was talking about, we had to use a couple extra of our ICF foundation courses to build up on our lower slope end in order to make sure that this house, you know, could fit in the backyard and everything would work well. So I again, like your photo, Jeff, I don't have great photos with lawns grown in and plantings. I know they have their work cut out for them this spring. But one thing to note, when we do end up using a couple extra courses of ICF, you'll notice that hatchway sort of in the middle of the photo. So she actually has a great, I think it's about 4 feet, 4'6" crawl space under there where we made a hatch. So she'll be able to store, anything that she may need, outdoor furniture, kayaks, or things like that underneath her house. Let's go take a look on the inside. I also did not have great photos, but in designing this one, we were really going for that open concept kitchen living room. We also wanted to have a bigger sense of volume. We were constrained by that size requirement to shrink our rooms, but how could we make it feel bigger? So we added in what we're calling this cathedral ceiling, where the roof peaked in the center around 9.5 feet. And that just gave enough space and sense, distinguish between the two spaces of the kitchen and the living room. And then also knowing we're a little bit small, how do we get that outside inside feel? We did this nice window set where we really brought a lot of light into the corner of the house there in her living room. So she does have great views out to the backyard. She's a bit higher up. And again, it's pretty private because her views aren't really looking in on the main house.
Jen, we had a question on the exterior. Were they going to do raised beds to hide the foundation wall at all?
Yeah, they knew we knew we were going to have this, and they were going to have some space for plantings. They're going to go ahead in the spring and add irrigation and whatever they need in that space. And then, yes, so the rest of the house, 1 bedroom. So she knew she needed a lot of closet space. So on the right here, we did a big walk-in closet where that door is. She was able to fit all the furniture, her bureau, and bed that she wanted to fit in there. And then also her bathroom was a key space. She wanted to have a ton of space and storage, but also fit her washer and dryer. So we can't really see it here, but behind the door, she has space for a furniture depth shelving unit. So she'll have full wall of shelving along with her vanity, and then sort of around the corner is the shower. But in 750 square feet, we're able to fit that sort of 1 bedroom with a bonus room, fit it in the backyard, overcome a lot of the constraints both of size and permitting, but also construction logistics with grade and utilities. So this was a great one, and hopefully we build another one of these soon.
Yeah, I always like that design with the L with the porch, the square L combo. I've always liked that.
Sorry, I was
What's
on
that
mute. Didn't realize it. Do you know the north, south, east, and west orientation of that house? Just because the light is nice in there.
Yeah, I'd have to go and look at our site plan about exactly how we're oriented there. But yeah, she had great light. And like I said, with these views, even though that main house is right there, her views are really private. It's great. Important design feature.
Okay, this house is my house.
This one seems to get a lot of likes and a lot of love. Tell us about it.
This was our home of the year. Everyone voted, and this is a fan favorite. And we get the most questions about this house too.
Yep. It was this was a good house for us. It was a combination between backyard ADUs, and it was our first time working with one of the clients. I think it was a sibling is an architect, so we worked with an architect firm with this one, which helped with some of the design features that you see in here. It's not necessary. We are our own architects as well, and we have we have all of these blueprints. I'm working on a home in Portland right now that is taking inspiration. We're going to use the same roof pitches as this house and take a lot of the elements of this, but make it a 2-bedroom rather than the 1-bedroom that this is. So I'm excited to see that one come to fruition. That's I guess we'll be talking about that one this time next year.
This is one of our smallest, right?
This is one of our smallest. I think it was 550 square feet.
With a garage.
So looking at this photo here, you have essentially the living space is all on the left, the larger pitched roof, and then on the right is site-built garage space. This is in South Portland, right on Willard Beach area. Beautiful house. If you're ever in the neighborhood, drive by, take a look. It's a beautiful house. Yeah, so this was our home of the year, apparently, as April tells me, and yeah, it's stunning, and we had a lot of fun building it. So, um, love to talk to you more about it. So when we got to designing the space in the home, there actually was an existing home on the lot that we put this on. Um, and we designed this to be the ADU first, and then we were going to build a primary home. Um, Plans changed, and we ended up just building the ADU side of it. There still is space to build a full house if they'd like to, but this is a good 1 bedroom bungalow. We call it the Surf Shack. Um, so in this space, we got to designing how they wanted to use it. Like I said, pretty compact footprint here, um, and just a 1 bed, 1 bath. But the open concept in the kitchen, living room area was a must. Having a place to be able to have a garage space, not only for storage, but then also for parking a car in these winter times is a really nice feature. And then, similar to Tim's last house, there's quite a bit of grade change on the back side of this house. So we have a good 4.5 foot basement access for this house as well, which is just a nice feature to have. Okay, interior photo. So we have this nice, big, beautiful lofted space, lots of natural wood everywhere. One of the things that I love about this house is not only the ceiling pitch, but then there's also storage above the bedroom and bathroom area, shown on the picture on the right with the ladder. There's just nice storage area. You can, once code enforcement passes by, you can put some beds up there for little kids or something like that. Put a little fence around. But nice flexible space, but used as storage, from my understanding. So good use of space. Lots of natural light coming in here. Love the tongue and groove pine ceiling here. Photo of the storage space, unfinished. I don't know if we got a finished photo of it, but nice, canvas for somebody to do something fun with that space up there, whether it be, like I said, little cots for kids or just storage. Bathroom, I felt had a really nice design. We went with a tile in the shower, which we love to do. We can either do a fiberglass insert, or we can do a tiled shower with niches around for your soaps and shampoos. They wanted to make sure they had storage space in here. As you're building small, every square inch counts. So having plenty of storage space for toiletries and whatever else is needed was a nice design feature. And then we actually decided to, it's hard to tell, but we decided to actually put the washer and dryer out in the hallway. When you're in the space, it feels very natural, but we didn't want to overcrowd the bathroom space here. Yeah, some more design features. So here's a photo of the bedroom. Again, really nice natural light coming through here. We have a nice closet space, some shelving, which is nice to have, really utilizing all of the space that we have available. And then a couple photos of just some of the nice details of the house. Again, this was completely built by us, and we had a lot of fun building this. And really nice to see the finished product.
Cool. All right, this is one of mine, down in Mass, and I'm realizing it's pretty similar to your one up in Maine there, Jeff. These clients came to us with their needs, and we started them off basically with a square, and they knew they needed 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and then as the project grew, it sort of morphed into building a square with a on-site breezeway, and then doing an ADU above a garage. Some of the constraints or logistics we were working with on the site, as you'll see on the left here, there's this large drainage easement. Drainage was big on the site. So as we were designing, we knew exactly how much impervious area we were allotted, including the driveway and outdoor space. So we really were tight in terms of working, you know, the main needs, that 1-bedroom square. And then what else could we add in terms of footprint of garages and then driveways, to make sure that everything was going to work when it came down to stormwater and impervious area. Part of that as well is, you know, what are their needs now and what are their needs in the future? So that's why they ended up going sort of with this loft, future ADU space. They don't need it to be a full ADU now, but they could always do that down the road. It also ended up morphing into really showing off DIY sort of custom options. The homeowner makes cabinets, and so you'll see as we look through some of these photos tonight, he ended up making a lot of cabinets in his shop. And in addition to our cabinets that we supply, he added some really nice accent pieces. He's also a sound designer, so he put in a huge TV and a great sound system, and they did a fantastic job decorating. They also went pretty custom on the bathroom and tile. So, you know, just to highlight, you know, what's possible both design wise, but really also about finishes. So they did a lot of custom tile. We'll look at some siding. They did a blend of vinyl siding, and some other custom options. So yeah, talking about siding, a lot of what we do is vinyl siding. It's economical, it's durable, you know, it lasts, but people are always looking for that edge, you know, of how can I, you know, change the aesthetic or have an accent or make things pop. So we work closely with them to do, as you can sort of see in this photo on the right, most of the house is vinyl siding, but we chose these accents in the photo on the left, sort of this curb appeal, to highlight these sort of modern roof lines with an LP board and batten product, and also blended in some of that for the trim. So this, like our square, the box on the right is 2 boxes, and that was the square house. And then it was 2 more boxes, a garage box with that, you know, studio ADU above it. And we site built this mudroom in between. So this is a photo from set day. You can see, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, no mudroom. And as we were working on the house, we stick built that mudroom to connect the two, very similar to yours, Jeff.
Yep.
And honestly, just like they did up in Pownell, they're trying to have, you know, just a little more curb appeal of how are those shapes sitting on the lot. They also did a little bit of an offset here to have that entryway just be a little more inviting with that deck a little bit off center and off square. So on the inside, it was honestly sort of stuck to a lot of what we're doing. Open concept kitchen and living room. They knew they wanted a big couch. They wanted views out to the back to add a deck or add a patio in the future. So they came to us. They knew what furniture was going in there, and we designed that living room space. They wanted a little more volume there. So this is that cathedral ceiling I mentioned earlier, where it's 8 feet on one side and it rises up to higher than 9 feet on the other side. This gives a little bit more of a sense of volume. And what that does going into the kitchen is sort of in the middle of the screen here, you can see a little bit of that shelf. And that way, when you're walking from the kitchen to the living room, things open up, it feels a little bit bigger. But open concept kitchen, living room, they knew they didn't need a dining room table. They were going to have this eat-in island. And we'll see in a minute these gorgeous custom cabinets that the homeowner made and installed. In the bathroom, they knew this was a big space and they were going to splurge in terms of square footage. So they did a wet bath. They did this pebble tile shower. They did a FIBO shower system, which is like waterproof panels that are meant to look like tile. They had some constraints where they didn't want to use tile on the walls. And so we found this other product and worked with them to install that along with this floating vanity. And again, custom DIY, but we were able to figure out in that design phase where do they want to allocate square footage and all along what was going to work for them in the budget. In the kitchen here, these are our Marilat cabinets, but you can see in the top left here, these are these custom barnwood cabinets that the homeowner built offsite, installed to have a little pop and accent to the kitchen. They also here, you can see this backsplash. They went and found the tile that they wanted, and we were able to install that. Yeah. This one's also neat. I forgot about this feature. They wanted these walnut countertops. So they knew someone locally, again, he's a woodworker, and they were able to outsource and find someone to do that. The other space, again, trying to figure out what are our needs now and what are our needs later, is they wanted this space above the garage. So we're able to deliver the studio space above. You can see the staircase on the far right, where you have your own little entryway. They can walk up. And if they ever wanted to add a kitchen in here, it's got a living room space. It has a bathroom in the far back corner there, and then a neat little sort of studio bedroom tucked in front.
It's great. That was a beautiful house. Looks fairly custom, but very beautiful.
Yeah, it's stuck to our bones. It's like, hey, we can do an ADU above a garage. We can do a square. We can figure out how to put these together. And what are we doing offsite? What are we doing on site? Yeah.
Figure the logistics of everything and make it somebody's custom home. I love it.
Can we answer
So,
a few random questions?
Absolutely.
Are not specific to any of these houses, but general questions. Is there any test for radon? Is one that we had.
Yeah, depending on what your area you're in, there will be guidelines on radon. All of our houses, all of our builds, per code have the infrastructure ready to receive a radon system. And depending on your area, we're typically installing a passive radon system in the foundation if needed. And then that way it can connect in the crawl space or the basement to the existing infrastructure that's coming in our houses to then vent above the living space.
If it is a concern of yours, there is some products that we can add. Stego wrap is a membrane that we can put in the foundation or crawl space of the house that helps mitigate radon penetration as well. So if it is a concern, we can definitely cross that path.
And are you aware of the Affordable Homes Act? To Tim.
I'm aware of it. I'm not a total expert. It sounds like they're probably in Massachusetts. This is some legislation that's in the works, and it's a big part of Maura Healey's push to get housing, to address housing in Mass. So I'm fairly well versed in it, but hopefully it passes and I can become an expert in it. Yeah.
And just a broad overview for people who have no idea what that is, because is it similar to our LD 2003, like to allow buy right?
Yes. Yep. Specific to ADUs, it's hoping to level the playing field across the state with buy right ADUs. And then there'll be a town by town trickle down of exactly what that means for your town. It's also broader, and there's, pathways and guidelines and funding for affordable housing projects, and things like that across the state outside of the realm of ADUs.
And another question, can you please describe septic system issues for these type of builds?
Yeah, each project's unique. Like going back to Jeff's up front where they're developing raw land. It's an important piece of data that we gather in our design phase of, what are the perk tests? What do the septic designs look like? And, what sort of system are we going to design and what are the costs? The project I was showing earlier of the sort of modified square L. Hey, there's already a house, there's already a septic system. We need to download the data of what's there. What are we adding? In that case, we modified a bedroom in the main house and converted it to an office to give us enough space to build that one bedroom in the backyard. Even then with Title V regulations in Massachusetts, we had to make sure we were checking all the boxes to meet local health codes. So in that case, we did have to add another tank. But it's so varied, it's hard to give a specific answer, but each project is unique. And in our first step, in our feasibility, we're trying to gather all the data and give you a good recommendation and path of what's probably going to need to happen. And then as we move into the design phase, we're going to nail down those details. do any septic designs or test pits that we may need, and go from there.
Yeah, ideally, when we're designing a septic system, we will try to have it make the most sense for the property, and that often is trying to avoid a septic pump if possible. If the lot is, if that's able to happen there. But we have septic designers, and yeah, we run through all of the what makes the most sense for this piece of property in this particular situation, and go from there.
And just to clarify on the last question, could you explain what by right means?
Yeah, great question. So by right, when we're thinking about planning and zoning bylaws, is allowing an ADU by right, meaning we can just go and pull standard building permits. There's no special permits or hearings needed. So that's what, when everyone's saying by right, it just means going to the building department and pulling standard permits. There's no additional permitting necessary.
And then kind of in connection to the garage build that you just were talking about, have you ever built an ADU attached to an already existing outbuilding? And the example they gave is a barn that was converted into a studio and turning it all into a living space.
Yeah, we certainly have done ADUs as attachments. The exact specifics of that attachment is always different depending on what's there. You know, are we attaching to an existing house, to an existing garage, to an existing barn? In all of those cases, we're trying to get a look at the foundation, that wall that we're thinking of attaching to. Are there any windows or doors or penetrations we need to worry about? And then also roof lines. How are we going to make these roof lines merge? So it is possible, but that would likely be in an initial zoning review, or more likely a feasibility study, where we'd be able to go on site, actually look at it, have our engineering team review it, and show you a good path forward for that.
Great. We're all caught up on questions if you want to keep going.
We keep them coming.
Yeah,
I feel like there hasn't been enough questions. It's Jeff and I blabbering over here, but
yeah, right.
Great. Well, Jeff, you want to take the next one here?
Yeah, this is a fun one. So this is a 729 square foot boomerang that has a full basement, full finished basement. So finished in the terms of meeting code. So he actually has it fairly open at the moment, but he's going to end up building it out further, build a bedroom, build a living space down there. But it met code requirements for finished. So this was a fun one. This was one that we were similar to your first house, Tim, where it's a true ADU. We're building in somebody's backyard. It's fairly tight property, and we were fairly close to the existing structure. So we had a lot of design talk about making sure that this ADU felt like you weren't just looking through the window into the other house. You had your sense of privacy. You had your own. The way that we actually ended up placing it on the property, it seems like each house has its own separate yard, even though they technically share a yard. So we really dug into how do we maximize the space and make it work for the homeowner.
Sweet.
So set day here. See us swinging the boxes there on the left, and there it is set. The finished photo on the right, you can see the garage and then the existing house in the back. What I love about some of our renderings, if you don't mind toggling back and forth for a second between the previous, the bottom right, that this was all done and sketched out before we ever put a shovel in the dirt. And I love being able to see how close we sometimes are with what our renderings are going to look like versus what it actually looks like. It's just a happy going through the photo album and finding this photo and that last rendering, and how we pretty much nailed it, I think. So yeah, that's
what are these, Jeff? What are we looking at, on the bottom there?
Yeah, so that's the basement area, window wells. So he has nice daylight down in the basement. He didn't have enough terrain on his property to have a walkout basement. And we actually ended up hitting water fairly quickly on his property, which was unfortunate, but we have a sump pump that takes care of that. But yeah, those are window wells for letting daylight in. So the way that this camera is facing, this corner of the house is a southeastern exposure, so he gets a lot of daylight coming through this side, which is why we put so much glazing, as you can see from the photo here.
I need those.
I know
Like,
you do
a
need those.
basement apartment, and I'm like, I need those window wells. I'm like, yeah.
For a little bit more.
Great.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, we ended up. Then there's a bedroom. There's a higher transom window on the left side of the house, in the basement area, and he actually had two. We ended up, as we were pouring concrete, he actually nixed the second window because the second window on the gable end would just be looking at that garage, and he didn't really want to have that that space there. So we nixed the window right there. But there's still plenty of daylight coming through that one small window, because like I said, that's south facing.
Cool. Any more on this one? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So another kind of before and after. Photo on the left, quick photo during set day, and then photo on the right, close to finish. Not quite there, but that was the latest progress pic I could find. So you can see how the house came and then how it looked installed. He decided to have a vaulted ceiling like you see here, and then another storage loft space above the entryway and stairs going to the basement. I thought this was just fun to be able to see what it looks like before and then what it ends up finishing and looking like. I'm always pretty amazed at how well you get it set on the ground and you're in construction mode, and it feels a little daunting, and then it's always nice to see the finished product. So yeah, he ended up doing his own custom countertops that you can't really get a good photo of, but you can see they were missing on the photo on the right. So yeah, it was a fun project.
Question about the window wells. Doesn't water collect in the window well?
Yep. So we have what are they, cores that we put in the window well that are able to act as drainage. So we put drainage material in the window wells, and then we've also cored holes to help with drainage in those window wells. This is in Portland, we just had that 100 or 200 year rain last month, whatever it was. So everything got really put to the test. We do add drainage to those window wells.
And I'm just noticing here, this is just highlighting, this is our ICF basement, right? He did an ICF basement. So those are those insulated concrete forms that we're doing, whether you're doing, one course on a crawl space, or in his case, full basement height and getting those window wells. Neat. What were his goals?
Yeah.
Is it storage up there? Is that what he was going for?
Yeah, storage. A nice place, like I said before, kind of you can put some cots up there and let kids kind of have a nice reading nook or that kind of a thing up there. He's got attic access to the bedroom. There's a bedroom on the L side of this house. He's got access up there, which is nice for supplementary storage, things like that. So kind of a flexible space, maybe storage, maybe kids.
All right. Awesome. A square. Did a lot of
square. We do.
Yeah,
we love the square.
Lately.
Yep. It's a good design. I've got 926 square foot square that we're going to be building. It's not technically a square shape, but it's a modified. It has a 2-bedroom or a 2-bathroom version and a stairs going to a basement, which is really nice. Putting in this year. But anyways, this is a very compact, nice design.
Sorry. Before we move on, someone's wondering, why are you using ICF for a basement versus concrete pour? So will you just clarify that a little?
Definitely. Yeah. So that ICF product, the reason we're going with that, it's better insulated. So we're getting higher R values in that basement. When we're putting our rubber membrane on the outside, we're not having to worry about water infiltration. and condensation. And then on the inside, if you're looking to finish that basement, it's pretty straightforward to notch in any electrical you may need. And then it's got plastic ribs in there. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of fastening drywall and finishing that space if you want to do it. But yeah, overall, better insulated. It's easier for us to work with. And, you know, it is a little bit more expensive, but it's a higher quality product. And that's why we stand by it.
Great.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So this was one of my houses here. This was built in southern Maine. We designed this house to meet their design needs. They wanted to have 2 bedrooms, needed to have two bedrooms. One bathroom space was fine, and then we really wanted to make sure that we were hitting their budget. They were selling their home, and actually had sold their home and had a very fixed budget that we needed to make sure that we met and maintained and kept under. So that was part of the scope. They were building on family land. This was a true ADU that we did. The design features that were must were a large screen porch for hosting all of her grandkids. She's in between her daughter's house and her niece's house, and they both have kids, so she's right in the middle. She wanted to make sure that she had a screen porch for having all the kids over there during summertime, and then they wanted to have a nice open living kitchen, living room area, and just an easy design, easy flow of the house. So there is the square, the foundation, the ICF that you can see. This photo is nice because you can actually see the slab that we put underneath, or the insulation that we put underneath the actual foundation. So yeah, in between there, and then we come out about a foot past the footings with the ICF, with it's not foam board, but whatever it is. And then we put a perimeter drain around that and drain everything to daylight. What is the material again, Tim? I always flub that.
Yeah,
up.
it's foam board. It's 2
Okay.
inches of XPS.
Yeah, XPS. Yeah, it's a specific kind of foam, not just any kind of foam out there.
Or EPS. Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Not helping
Yeah,
with
it's foam board.
frost, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So thinking back, hey, why are we using ICF? It's really insulated, but it also works well with this overall shallow frost protected foundation system that we're using. Not as applicable with the full basement where you're below the frost line, but when we're doing a crawl space, this wing insulation that Jeff was highlighting that sticks out past those walls is preventing frost from coming down and getting underneath our structural element there, which is the core of that ICF that gets filled with rebar and concrete. So in that sense, it's pretty much the same as a poured concrete wall, but we have this benefit: insulation on both sides, plastic ribs, makes it easy to finish down the road.
And I'll include some info. We have a blog post about our foundations. I'll include that in the follow-up email too for everyone.
Great.
Yep, some photos of the screen porch, yet to be screened, but we had that designed and sent over with the factory, which was nice. We actually ended up bringing our Massachusetts crew up for this build, and we had all hands on deck at the time, working to finish this home. Like I said, the customer had a tight timeline and a tight budget, so we had all hands on deck, which was a lot of fun.
You did that one fast. How
We did that one fast. Yeah,
A week?
very fast. Yeah, it was very fast. Majority of it was done in a week, and then there's like little tiny projects here and there that came up after that. But yeah, it was very, very quick. More the exception than the rule that we got it done that fast. But
Yeah.
I'm noticing here too, Jeff. You guys is that an accent in your gable end? Just to
yeah, that's our Cedar Impressions, which is a vinyl product as well, but really makes an impression. It makes a difference between just a classic shiplap vinyl siding and just breaking that up and doing something with a nice accent there. Yeah, they have the nice corners and have it's not quite a double gable look, but it almost is with that porch there. It's a very, very sturdy attic space that they have for that screen porch. some photos that we have of the interior. Again, we're just trying to do a photo montage of the year here. We got the kitchen, the living room space, and just really want to make sure they had ceiling fans abound in their space. I like ceiling fans myself too. So we'd use heat pumps for our heating and AC, which you can see some floor registers around in some of the photos. But they like to just have the moving air of the ceiling fans. We made sure to put those in during design phase. And there we are.
Ah.
Yeah, it was a very fun project. They're very, very good people. We exchange Christmas cards.
This is my vote for photo of the year. Such a good one.
Yeah. You know, that house, we have the whole team photo, and then we also have the homeowner photo, which we really get to have that. So that's great.
Yeah, we should try to do more of those.
All right. And then this is one I wanted to highlight. It's a boomerang we did, sort of modified boomerang we did down on the Cape.
This is a big deal. You don't
This is a
understand.
big deal. It's the
People have
real
been
deal.
waiting to see the inside of this house, and it's not decorated yet, but no one's
It's in
seen
the
the
works.
inside.
It's in the works. So Averill is alluding to why it's a big deal. We're actually renting it now, and it's our office down in Barnstable on the Cape. So if you are interested, once it finally gets decorated, you can come take a tour and actually get a sense of what this space feels like. So I worked with the homeowner on this one. He knew his goals overall were to use it as a rental, and he knew he wanted to do a 1-bedroom. That was going to work for the demographic that he knew, traveling nurses or professionals in the medical industry at the nearby hospital. But as we worked through the design phase, we decided, hey, we really want to add, we're on Cape Cod, that 3-season porch is really going to make a difference. So it was a 1-bedroom boomerang, and we ended up morphing it here, and it sort of turned into a T-shape, adding that 3-season porch on the back. As we're going through the design phase and figuring out what was going to work best, we knew we wanted to highlight the kitchen and have a lot of space there, have the potential for an eat-in peninsula, have plenty of space for a table, and also have full-size appliances. So we definitely dedicated some good space to the kitchen. And then once we added that 3-season porch, we knew that this space was going to be flex space. You could add a couch and have a TV. You could move the table over here, depending on what the needs were of whoever was renting. And then on the other side, making sure we had storage. So entry closet, everything's there when you come in the house for storage, so things don't get cluttered. And then in the bedroom, a big walk-in closet. To again, all the storage is there, and then plenty of space in that bedroom for furniture storage or a sitting chair or things like that. So let's take a look. This is again, our ICF. This is that one block or one course. His lot was dead flat, so we're able to use that. You can see on the far left, that's the water line. So as we're under construction, we brought water from the main house. This one had a brand new septic system just to serve the ADU. And there's our ADU coming out of the factory and on the trailer, arriving to site. And here's a photo we just took the other day of the finished product. So it's really cute. He added a little entry porch just to have a space, put a chair or two out and make it a nice little entryway in that nook. I didn't get a great shot from far away, but there's plenty of parking. So there's 3 spaces of parking. That's something you want to prioritize as well.
And does the porch have screen or glass, making it a 3-season porch?
Yeah, we'll take a look in a minute. We ended up going with windows, knowing that, in the winter on the Cape, we really want that to be weather tight. And then he also added a heating source in there so that it can be used year round. So bathroom, it was a really small space, but he chose, a couple upgrades, but to keep things simple. So white subway tile on the shower, little offset with the tiles on the floor, washer and dryer, it all fits in there. It's a nice space. And then same in the bedroom, even though it's only 1 bedroom, you can fit a queen size bed, have storage on both sides. And not pictured is a bureau. So plenty of space in there. And then that window looks out and has a nice private view.
And the closet in that bedroom is really deep. I don't know.
It's huge. Yeah.
Deeper than a regular size closet. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can see the closet next to it there, the size difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's got plenty of space for hanging storage. You could also fit furniture storage in there too, if you had a bureau, which is great. It's also where our access hatch is to the crawl space. So if they ever need to access the utilities, to do maintenance or anything like that, it's all accessible, which is great. So like Gabriel said, it's not fully finished, but on the right here, this is this large kitchen. So there's tons and tons of cabinet space and storage. You fit in an 18-inch dishwasher, which is a neat touch, along with the full-size appliances. Eat-in island. We have a smaller table there now, but we knew in the design phase, you could plan for a table that, you know, could seat 4, could seat 6, depending on what you really want to fit in there. And then looking the other way, again, it's not fully furnished, but there's space to hang a TV on the wall, to fit a couch. And even though this section without the 3-season porch is, I think it's like 530 square feet. That was our typical boomerang. It feels big with that 3-season porch on the back. It's a little bit over. It's around 720 square feet, I believe. And I'm kicking myself. I didn't put a photo in of that 3-season porch, but it's off the back there. You'll have to come down. You'll have to come down to the office and take a look. I'd love to show you around. So Jeff and I, we were going through. There was too many to pick from. So I know we're running a little bit past 6 o'clock here.
We still have some questions to answer too. So.
Oh, let's do it.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. So all of you who thought that I'd forgotten, we circle back. Do you ever panelize ADUs that don't fit into the standard modular dimension limitations?
It's a great question. We're typically, the way we're structured is we're doing, they call it, these volume modular boxes, volumetric. So we can't break down our walls and panelize them like others can. We can panelize certain roof sections if we're doing unique roof lines, but we're set up to build these boxes offsite. And for us, that's capturing the efficiency of building in a factory and not having to, assemble panels. We're getting a lot of the electrical, plumbing, and finish work done in a controlled environment. So that way, when it does arrive, we can have, like Jeff said earlier, those pretty tight turnaround times, 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 10 weeks to get the utilities hooked up and get everything finished. So short answer, no. The long answer, it really depends. I'll also say we fit these in backyards where there are a lot of people doubting that it was possible. Now people moved into the backyard and they're in their homes. So
yeah.
And also for everyone to, if you do have questions, now is the time to throw them in there because we're going to start wrapping up. So if anything comes to mind, now is the time to throw it in. Sure. What do you use for insulation and what rating? Yeah.
So those insulation blocks we're typically using Nudura is the brand. ICF is like the tissue to Kleenex. We're using Nudura, which is a brand of ICFs. And those, depending on whether you're doing the full basement or the crawl space, can vary a little bit and their exact dimensions. But at the core, we're getting R22 in the basement with that insulation on the outside and the inside. So that crawl space or full basement is considered conditioned space.
Kind of along the same lines, they said, sorry to get technical, but are the ICFs R14 then? And you don't need to insulate inside the basement foundation further to finish the space down there? Question?
Correct. Yep. If you're doing that full basement, the only thing we really need to do in terms of further insulating is covering that insulation with drywall as a fire break. And then the other piece is that connection between foundation and house. We'll either do, sometimes we're doing spray foam, other times we are doing just more foam board and spray foaming those in to both insulate and air seal.
Right.
Um,
And about this photo right here, can you describe a little about the little house on the upper right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I pulled these photos because I realized Jeff and I sort of went off the deep end of what are some of the more custom things we've done, but we've done a lot of squares and L lines. And along the way, you know, people added their unique footprint and handprint on them. So top right, this is an L line. We just did this in Concord. So it was a 1-bedroom L, and she decided to add, we added a little entryway, covered entryway, which is on the left here. And then for that inside outside feel, she decided to add a deck in her nook on her L. So that's the top right.
That one is not painted either. We're waiting to paint in the spring, just so people know.
Correct. Yep, we got her moved in right before Thanksgiving. So it got too cold to paint. But this, everything on the outside, I forget what color she chose. But that'll get painted this spring when the temps get warmer. The other ones I wanted to show here, in the sort of middle of the screen, this is a square we did on Cape Cod. It's a great 2-bedroom square, similar to the one you showed, Jeff, and with your clients. And she decided to just add, you know, sort of a little touch with that entryway and just having a covered entryway. And our carpenter, Tommy, who's a wizard with wood, built that neat little accent. And then this other one, they wanted some outdoor living space, so they added a little bump out deck, which is a neat touch to a square.
That's nice.
And I'm assuming this is about the 3-season porch, but are the windows triple paned?
Yeah, great question. Typically, we're using Harvey windows, and we're doing all the upgrades to meet energy codes, and then likewise in Maine. Those are all double paned. You can upgrade and do triple pane windows, but sort of when you get down to the brass tacks of it, you're spending a lot more and your efficiency isn't as much. So you can upgrade and do triple pane, but really depending on what your goals are, it's not always economical.
And this one's a little more complex question, but can you talk about energy efficiency and eco-friendly materials? For example, plywood / particle board and what we use that's non-toxic.
Sure. Yeah. We run into this a lot. Everyone sort of has unique needs, you know, when it comes to materials, but where we don't compromise is energy efficiency. So we talked about the insulated concrete form for the basement. That's R22. We're using, we had some photos in here of the zip sheathing. We're using, did we have it in here? There we go.
There it is.
This green board, you'll see that a lot. Unlike, we're using a specific line of this product that has insulation baked into it. And that's providing continuous insulation around the entire house, which is R9. And then it's 2x6 construction, typically with fiberglass in the walls. Some people, if they don't like fiberglass, you can upgrade and use something like rock wool that's made out of rocks. And then in our attic spaces, we're typically blowing in cellulose, R60 of cellulose. And what that is, that's just paper. So when we're looking at, let's go to a house. Overall, super insulated basement, maximizing 2x6 construction, adding that continuous insulation all the way around, and then blowing in cellulose upstairs to make it super energy efficient. And when it comes to those materials, do you say something about like glues and plywoods? Was that
About plywood and particle board?
Yeah,
The materials that are regarding energy efficiency and eco-friendly.
yeah. And we're always trying to balance sort of typical building, typical but also readily available building materials in conjunction with energy efficiency and then clients' needs. So there's some things we can't get away from. You know, our subfloor is subfloor. It's made with glue. It's a particle board. We can't really get away from that. Whereas, otherwise, hey, maybe if you didn't like fiberglass, you could look at rock wool or something like that. But sort of in that matrix of things, we're working with homeowners to figure out what's going to work for them. Typically across the board, it's like low VOC paints, low VOC caulk, things like that. Yeah, I hope that answers their question. I'm sure they have maybe specific products in mind. And if you do, I would either reach out to myself or Jeff.
Yep.
Contact information is in here.
And
at the end, there we go. Yeah, reach out to Jeff or I, and if you have specific, products or materials you have in mind, let us know, and we can tell you if it's something we worked with or we're willing to work with, or maybe point you in the right direction. That's worked for us as well too.
Great. Then, yeah, we'll wrap this up. Again, this is recorded if anyone can't stick around. Do you have a couple more minutes, Tim and Jeff, to these last couple? Okay. And it took a very long time. Usually this is the question we're getting all night, but someone has finally asked, can you give a range of cost, and whether or not construction costs have gone up or down in the last few years?
yeah, you can see the range of ADUs that we've built in this slideshow as we've been going through it. So it really is quite variable. A good starting point for most of these houses is probably the low 200s. And I'd say most of the projects probably end up, at least my projects at Maine, end up closer to 300,000. And that's a total project. That's not just the house. That's us figuring out all of the different site constraints that are required. Sometimes things go higher than that if we're building a pretty large house or a complicated site. But construction costs have definitely gone up quite a bit in the last few years. What's our graphic? In 2019, we were able to build a 1,000 square foot home for, what was it, 770,000, and our costs have gone up over 65% since then. So definitely costs have gone up. Just materials, labor, everything, inflation in general has affected housing. But we do our best to keep the budget reasonable and as efficient as possible.
Yeah, and in the background, we're always trying to find ways to make things more efficient. Both, energy wise and saving costs, but also, again, like, this only works if we're hitting budgets. So, I think these are 3 great examples where we worked with clients and said, okay, what are our rocks that we can't move? Okay, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, size. All right, where are we going to make adjustments on the inside? Where are we going to make adjustments on the outside? And then knowing, in that full matrix of construction, this is all the site work, all the utilities, all the permitting, it's turnkey. Or honestly, it's not a webinar for tonight. It's another one that we do about DIY shells of, hey, backyard ADUs can do everything, or hey, we know costs have gotten really crazy. Don't pay us to be a general contractor. DIY some of those elements yourself to save money. So
yeah, we can include that pricing guide too in the follow-up email, which again is not exact, depends on where you're living, especially, but we'll give you more of a idea of and what's included even in our price.
Yeah, and we're hoping soon, sort of in the next 2 to 4 weeks, to get really updated pricing. We're doing 2023 review of designs, and it's like, hey, let's look back at all these and where are we to get you good information. Because honestly, the reason we've been successful and been able to help people is setting good expectations, being upfront and transparent about costs and pricing. So yeah, reach out to Jeff or myself. If you're in Maine, reach out to Jeff. If you're in Mass, reach out to me. We'll be happy to chat and point you in the right direction and see how we can help you.
And we really didn't talk as much as we usually do about feasibility studies, which we also have a feasibility study event. But someone said they're looking to do a build summer of 2025. When would you suggest a feasibility study? as we have an acre of land in Massachusetts.
Great. Well, Massachusetts question, I'll take it. But overall, the thesis is the same, is that feasibility study is our way to come out and see the site. If it's raw land, it's, hey, where are utilities? How are we going to get there? Similar to the project that Jeff showed us tonight. How are we thinking about sewer, septic, wells, or town water and power? And our goal with that, we do the site visit, we get our engineering team to review it, we get our design team to review it, and we deliver you a report and a site sketch that basically shows what's possible, how will we make it possible, and what will the cost be. And because we're able to go out and do that site visit, get our engineer and design team to look at it, we'll get you really good ballpark pricing. So, yeah. And sorry, I missed the question. When timing, I typically tell people to set good expectations. If you're thinking about building a house, and you're thinking about, hey, I want to move in at this date, try to get a feasibility 12 months beforehand. Sometimes we can do our whole process quicker than 12 months. But 12 months is a really good metric in order for us to do our due diligence, to take our time to get it right, nail the design and engineering, and then that allows us to execute and get you moved in on time and on budget. Yeah.
My advice would be to reach out and start the conversation with us. You don't have to schedule a feasibility on first reaching out and talking with us, but I would at least start that. And we're pretty good at helping you and shepherding what's feasible, what's not, what are some constraints before you have to spend any money with us. And then by the time, it's always nicer to not be rushed in a construction timeline. So if you're looking to build summer of 25, you could still get pricing now. We're gonna be able to keep your project in our minds throughout the whole time. That it's gonna be a nicer, easier way to plan than to just try to rush in on a tight window. So.
Yeah, and then like 60,000 foot view where we're at right now is sort of always on a rolling basis. As people are ready to build, they'll enter our pipeline, and folks who are sort of joining now and starting design starts sort of through June, hoping to get people in by the end of this year or early next year. And that feasibility doesn't expire. So if you did a feasibility next month, you could sit on that for 6 months and then say, hey, we're ready to start design. Or you could roll right into design. We could design the whole house and then say, great, we're not going to build it offsite and execute for an additional 6 months, but we have everything ready. We can get our permits in order and all that. So
yeah,
it's always easier to have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do one last question. If you have any other questions, again, reach out to Jeff or Tim. We've had half the people have had to head out, but I had hoped we had so many homeowners, like past clients of ours, show up for tonight's event. So I want to tell all of you, thanks for continuing to show up and support us. And the final question is, I'm going to answer 2 questions because one's important. What does a feasibility study cost? Short answer.
It's $600. It covers our time to come and do the site visit, to do all those reviews, and get you good information.
Great. And the shortest answer you can give, what brought backyard ADUs from Maine to Massachusetts, and particularly Cape Cod?
Yeah, well, we were founded out in Western Mass in East Hampton, and our founder, Chris, moved up to Brunswick. So that's the direct answer. Started in Mass, moved up to Maine. And just as we've grown and heard from homeowners, we've grown and expanded. So why Cape Cod specifically? It's really as rules change. So towns in Cape Cod looked at the housing crisis and the housing needs, and responded by allowing ADUs and changing their rules. And so as that happened and the word got out, we were there to help guide people and get them into an ADU or a house. Similar story all across Mass and Maine. Is I always tell people, like, this has been happening on the West Coast for 10 years. We're on sort of this first wave here in New England. of people realizing, hey, we need housing, and looking at all the options. So ADUs are one of those options. Yeah.
I know I said that was the last one, but this is the last question that's in, so I can't just leave one sitting there. So when you give a price, I'm trying to, I get what they mean, but I'm trying to figure out the wording. When you give a price, do you not exceed that price?
Yeah, so we were founded on the principle of trying to eliminate some of the problems with construction, and one of them is a lot of hand waving. Oh, we can do that, blah blah blah, but also pricing, right? Of, oh, that's going to cost, you know, X, and it turns out costing Y. So part of the reason we charge for that feasibility, because it does take a lot of time to do our due diligence and look at all the aspects of a project. And our goal there, feasibility, design stage, and construction, is to look at budgets, hone in on a fixed price. That's our construction contract price. And then, you know, nail that during construction. So when we sign a construction contract, unless there's any allowances or there's some unknowns, we're trying to hit one fixed price. And we do that, you know, from feasibility through to the design stage, being open and transparent. What are your needs? What are your budgets? How are we going to pay for it? And let's work together hand in hand through those 3 steps. So if
yeah,
you can
one thing to,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say one thing to clarify with that. When we do the feasibility study, we give you an estimate. So it's not what the total project's going to be, because we're doing our due diligence. We're looking at the large picture, but we haven't been able to comb through every little detail of your home and your property. But we're making some very educated responses to what we're seeing. And so it's a total project cost. We take the feasibility study. It ends up being our master document through the entirety of your time with Backyard ADU, through design and construction. So we take those quotes in the feasibility study very seriously. But it's an estimate. So once we get through design phase, then we lock in construction contract pricing, and that locks in. So say you lock it in and then you set your house in 3 months and labor shortage has happened. Well, you don't have to pay for that. It's on us to figure that out. So locking in the construction price is a customer benefit, and we wanted to. It's one of our ethos as a company is to have a good customer experience and not pull anything that some of the other contractors seem to do. So,
and my analogy is always a funnel. You know, we're going to start at the top, put in all this information into these unknowns, and we're going to work our way to the bottom where we know what we're building, how we're going to get it permitted, and exactly what it's going to cost.
Sweet. We did it.
All right.
we did it.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight.
Everyone for coming. We also have another event coming up in 2 weeks on ADUs for independent living. So we'll discuss like ADA modifications, using multi-generational housing as an option for senior living or accommodating adult children with disabilities. So we'll go over all that. I think it's the 22nd, 2 weeks from today. So you can register for that as well on our website, and give me a little time to put together this follow-up email, and I'll try and get that sent out to everyone tomorrow.
Great.
Again, any questions, send them to Tim and Jeff. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, April.
Yeah, have a good night.